Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're well. I want to start off by saying that I live in a world where, as far as I'm concerned, if you do something wrong, if you do something against the law and you are caught, you are held to account and you are punished, and that punishment should be such that you get the general idea you shouldn't really do that thing again. That's how the law should work. And it hasn't worked that way for a very, very long time. If you get repeat offenders who commit several things over a period of time, no matter what it is, the punishment should be more severe depending on the level of crime that you commit against the individual. These are all things that I was brought up to understand, brought up to believe, and literally everybody who does wrong to another human being should be held to account. And there are certain things in our world, in our country, in our society, which are absolutely sickening, especially when it involves our kids. And you would think that anything that happens to our kids repeatedly, again and again, would be dealt with quickly, severely, and in such a way the individuals concerned would know that you don't do it. Not a good idea. When this is discussed in Parliament, it's been a very long road because people on the outside of Parliament, Tommy being one person who has led the charge somewhat in exposing all this, has been pushed away and silenced. I'm going to bring you another video tomorrow about what influence the government has over social media with regard to shutting people up, shutting people down. And eventually, when a report is released, Keir Starmer is backed into a corner and says, yes, let's have that full inquiry. And, do you have any confidence in the system? I'm not sure. Well, what I've seen so far is a lot of arguing about the fact that anybody that raised a concern about this when it was put in the media, no thanks to Rupert Lowe and his campaign, was branded far right. It was just a far right mouth thing of some description, therefore insulting and denying all of these victims. I'm in close contact with somebody who will remain nameless, and a relative of hers is a victim of what we're discussing. And they broke down in floods of tears when, people were labelled as far right for raising this. Now, what the politicians are saying, they want an apology for, this whole thing and anybody concerned about it being branded far right. I mean, look at this. Richard Tice demands apology from Yvette Cooper over far right gang's smear. An apology. That's political point scoring, Richard. You're not the only one guilty of it. And I have the same thing to say. Shut up. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things. What matters is getting to the bottom of why this happened, why it's been going on as long as it has, and dealing with the people responsible. You want to go on political point scoring? All you're doing is proving you're just one of them. One of the establishment that share that house you're sitting in. Not good. And when I say one of them, I mean part of the uni party, just to clarify my remark. Well, today, Yvette Cooper confirms a local investigation overseen by a national commission. So the government are getting their fingers into this. The Home Secretary has confirmed Sir Keir Starmer's government will launch an inquiry which sees a national commission oversee further local investigations. Yvette Cooper said that Baroness Casey's report concludes that further local investigations are needed, but they should be directed and overseen by a national commission with statutory inquiry powers. She added, "We agree, and we will set up a national inquiry to that effect." One thing that Richard Tice has said, and I actually agree with to an extent, is that perhaps something like an American judge should be brought in to oversee this, because, as Richard said, they're used to marking their own homework in this country, and it's not really going to be an impartial thing, is it? This is damning. 800 cases uncovered. 800 in Baroness Casey's review. The Home Secretary admitted the number could rise above 1,000. Over the years it's been going on, it probably could, adding children as young as 10. And I'm not going to say the words, you can read them on the screen. Disgracefully let down again and again by the authorities who were meant to protect them. At its heart, she identifies a deep-rooted failure to treat children as children, a continued failure to protect children and teenage girls from what's happened. All words I can agree with. All words that should have been said a long time ago by those in that house, those that are there to protect and look after our interests. There's a particular piece of legislation, which I've put in another video, which basically puts people in prison for life if they allow this kind of stuff to happen. People in positions of authority, public servants, public representatives. This is going to expose a few things, I think. Well, this is what else. We will take action, Yvette Cooper confirms. Labour will accept all 12 of Casey's recommendations. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper has confirmed Labour will accept all 12 of the recommendations in the review. Cooper confirms Keir Starmer's government will now introduce new laws. How about you just take the laws of the land that are here in the first place to protect children and support victims, new major police operations, a national inquiry to direct local probes and hold institutions to account, new data and research, new ethnicity data and research. It's pretty clear from all the literature the answer to that question. But at the end of the day, if somebody is of mind, of such an abhorrent state of mind that they can do this to somebody as young and as vulnerable as a young individual, a young child, really the laws of this country are not being enforced, and no amount of new laws is going to change that. This already looks like a sweep it under the carpet job, and it's no good. Let's continue. New action across services to identify young people at risk. Further action to support and tackle new forms of exploitation, and change the law to ensure that adults who engage in this behaviour with anyone young will be charged with the relevant offence. But, you know, there's several things at play here. There's the breakdown in the system that allowed this to happen. There's the breakdown in our society that allowed this to happen. There's the breakdown in responsibility of the parent that's allowed this to happen. I've read stories of dads that have gone to rescue their children and have got in trouble themselves. Several breakdowns have allowed this to happen. Breakdown in the law has allowed this to happen. Non-enforcement of existing laws which would protect these kids has allowed this to happen. That recommendation list is just words on a piece of paper. Where are the actions? I'm not sure I can trust any of this, and I'm assuming you will feel the same. Let me know in the comments. But there's one thing that really sticks in the back of my throat is the hypocrisy of all of this. You see, Yvette Cooper stood up after having been quiet for quite some time, actually, and announced all this. But why wasn't it announced sooner? Where were all these people when this should have been put in Parliament, should have been dealt with, should have been exposed? What the hell were they doing? I'll tell you what they were doing. Making sure it didn't happen. I'm going to put this on the screen, and I'm going to read every single name and shamed. Now, this list has come off of GB News, and I think it's very relevant that this is read out. So GB News has revealed the 9 Labour officials who worked behind the scenes to obstruct a national inquiry into this. So let's start. Yvette Cooper. Even after admitting that the gangs operating in Britain committed appalling and some of the most vile crimes that we're talking about, the Home Secretary repeatedly denied any requests for an inquiry before saying in an interview, we've already had an inquiry. All of this is in the public domain. I've seen much of this myself. Bridget Phillipson, who is also Starmer's Equalities Chief, accused those calling for an inquiry of being bandwagon jumpers who don't care about children. She denied an inquiry was even needed. Again, that's been in the mainstream. Sadiq Khan, he's repeatedly refused to answer if there's any evidence of this operating in London. On one occasion, he pretended he didn't even know what they were asking. Can you define what you meant by that? That was the question. He then crushed a bill to have an inquiry in London. Lisa Nandy, the Culture Secretary, rejected calls for an inquiry, instead hailing the previous J inquiry for taking evidence from thousands. That inquiry found what everyone has found. She then claimed there was no need for another one. Well, it's obvious there is. Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, rejected an inquiry saying there are people in my community who have either Pakistani heritage or look different, who are now more fearful today than they were before. What about the kids? Jess Phillips. In Parliament, the safeguarding minister let slip that there was in fact a cover-up of these crimes, and then went on to claim we still shouldn't have a national inquiry. I remember that well. That was on the news also, very well covered. She also rejected a local inquiry in Oldham after campaigners fought for so long to have one. David Lammy. He criticised Elon Musk, saying he was peddling mistruths on this. He also rejected an inquiry after saying, by singling out Asians, we not only pander to the far right, but increase the risk of violence and other stuff against minorities in this country. Again, what about the kids? You can't hide behind that card. Lucy Powell, the leader of the House of Commons, wasn't sacked or forced to resign for saying, oh, we want to blow that little trumpet now, when the issue of the gangs was brought up. She also claimed they were a dog whistle. Yeah, I covered that one too. And last but not least, Keir Starmer. The Prime Minister said anyone calling for an inquiry was jumping on a far-right bandwagon. He also said people like Tommy was spreading mistruths and misinformation. He's done everything he could to stop this, but the truth will prevail. So that's 9 people on that list, 9, and a lot of which are pretty well known. You see them on the telly every day. You see them being interviewed every day. All of these people are elected to represent us, to look after our interests, to protect us, protect our young. What happened? What went so wrong? Somebody tell me. I'm just a taxi driver, business operator, father, husband, 2 kids. What went wrong? Anyway, thank you very much for listening. Please hit the like button. Let me know what you think. Subscribe to the channel. I appreciate that very much. We're climbing in the numbers, which is great. Have a look at this video here. This is one of my earlier videos on this subject, and we need some attention to this. Thank you again. And as always, I look forward to talking to you soon. Toodaloo.